All right, well, good morning. I have the very special honor to be able to introduce to you guys our distinguished guest today. Our distinguished guest is somebody who has the kind of resume that just about all of us would be very envious of. She's a graduate of Harvard University who went on to work as an analyst on Wall Street before becoming truly one of the most respected social researchers in the world. Some of her books, which include bestsellers like For Women Only, For Men Only, Through a Man's Eyes, have sold over 2 million copies. They've been translated into over 23 different languages around the world. And part of the reason why they're so, I think, relatable, part of the reason why this person has had such an impact is she's one of those rare types that is incredibly respected in all areas of academia, but she actually knows how to take all of her research, her data, her analysis, and translate it into very practical ways for people like you and me in this room. And that's what, if you get a chance to read one of her books, you'd see, I call it like, it's those kind of books where it's just full of light bulb moments where you just can't help but say, oh my gosh, I never saw it like that. She's actually agreed very graciously to stay after Convocation. She's going to be right down here signing copies of her book. So I really want to encourage those of you in this room, if you get a chance, go down, get a chance to meet her, pick up one of those books. It's the kind of book that I promise you will have a huge impact in your life. A lot of her work focuses on relationships, marriage relationships, family relationships, workplace relationships. I promise you the practicality of how that will play out in your life can be pretty impactful. So she's going to be, after Convo, coming and doing that. She's a regular in platforms like the Today Show, the New York Times. She's a regular in places like Focus on the Family, and she's not a stranger to Liberty University. She's been here with us before. So can you join me in giving a very warm welcome back to Liberty to Mrs. Shaunti Feldhahn.
I'm thrilled to be back here. I actually brought my daughter with me, who's a sophomore in high school, and I'm sensing a lot of lobbying going on already from the Liberty family. So I have to tell you, I have the best opening line in the world when I meet people at parties or the strangers on the airplane, because I travel a lot, you know. And I'm most well known for my book, For Women Only, which is, digging into how men think, for example. And so, the guy sitting next to me on the airplane, you have that awkward, what do you do? What do you do? Kind of conversation, right? And it's usually a guy, and I say, I help women understand men. And it's actually kind of funny, because the reaction that I get when I say that, usually the guy goes, what are you going to tell him about us? There's almost this scared, like, deer in the headlights kind of thing. Sometimes I get this laugh where the guy goes, we're really not that complicated. And it's funny, as I don't know how many, yes, okay, so many of the men have said that and heard that. And many of the girls in this room have heard a guy say that. And you know what, ladies? I'm here to tell you one thing. Guess what? That's not true. It turns out that inside the heart of a guy, there is so much more depth and vulnerability and complexity. There's so much going on underneath the surface. And we, as women, we often don't even know that all that stuff is in there. And so okay, you guys are like clapping at everything. So what we're going to be digging in today is both that side of things. For us as women, what are those things that we don't know? And for the guys in the room, guys, you have your own misunderstanding. Because where girls sometimes have bought the idea that, guys just aren't that complicated, you guys think, well, I know girls are complicated, right? Okay, now all the men are clapping. All right. And guess what, guys? That's not true either. What? I heard some guy over there yell, what? And I wish that I had time in this short session together to unpack all of what is behind both of these pretty big statements. We are going to just get started. Because we come to this concept of talking about relationships, we come to this with all these ideas already set in our mind. I guarantee you that most of you in this room probably come to this conversation about what guys think, what girls think, what they need, what she needs, what all that, with all these assumptions already starting from probably middle school, right? And I'm here to tell you, one of the things I was so surprised when I started this research years ago, I was so surprised to find out how many of our assumptions were wrong. And not just a little wrong, but like a lot wrong. We have to rewind, learn some of these things from the beginning. Because I can promise you one thing. It's going to be a really big statement, but this is very true. If you will truly listen to we're just going to have a starting point conversation here. If you will truly listen to what I'm going to be sharing from the research about some of these deep things inside men and inside women that the opposite sex tends not to know, if you will truly listen and explore this with an open mind, asking God to open your eyes to those things you just didn't see before, I guarantee you, it will change the course of your life. My job here, I have one job, and that's to save every one of your marriages in advance. And so that you come into relationships with all of this awareness, like, wow, it's not that complicated. Here's the first thing that I want you to know from all the research I've done. We don't have time to go into all the different types of research, but suffice it to say, I've interviewed and surveyed more than 15,000 men and women over the last 10 years and done 8 nationally representative, massive, very expensive, very rigorous surveys in order to bring out this stuff, so it's not my opinion. And honestly, there's always generalizations. You need to know that too. Like if by definition, if 75% of men said one way, by definition, 25% didn't, right? Everybody's an individual. But the key is learning this stuff so that you can see what maybe you didn't see underneath the surface before. Here's the first and most important piece of information that I can share with you from all these years of research. Big picture about everybody. Most relationship problems that probably already some of you are seeing very clearly in your relationships now, and certainly for years to come, the vast majority of relationship problems don't come from the big issues. They don't come from the big ticket problems. Like when we do marriage conferences, my husband and I do a lot of marriage conferences, and we do these marriage conferences, most of the marriage issues in the room, it's not because someone is, married to an alcoholic, for example, or someone was sexually abused as a child and that's playing all the way through their marriage. Those things do happen, of course, but they're not the majority of cases. What we have found most of the time, you have a husband and a wife who care about each other a lot. And they are trying really hard because they don't know some of these things about the other person. They are trying hard in the wrong areas, and they're missing each other. And some of you have already seen this, where you're trying really hard, and the other person doesn't feel cared for in the way you think that they should feel cared for after all your hard work. So these people are missing each other, or even worse, sometimes they're hurting each other, and they never would intend to, and just didn't know it. So start it now, learn some of these things, ask God to open your eyes, and you will be amazed at how a whole new world opens up in front of you. And suddenly, the relationships, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships, so much more will go so much more smoothly. You can, once you learn this stuff, try hard in the right areas and avoid hurting each other in a way you never intended. Next thing for you guys to know, big picture that we found in the research, and I know this is going to be a shocker to everybody in the room, but men and women are just different. Okay? I know it's a huge shock, But we saw this so clearly when we did the research. We were doing a series of focus groups one night, a couple of nights in a row, and this illustrated some of these differences so clearly. We had 2 focus groups. The first night was a focus group of college-age guys, about 20, 21-year-old guys. And the next night was a focus group of same-age young women. And we were in one of those, can you picture those conference rooms with the big table and then those whiteboards on the walls with the doors that close? You know what I'm talking about? You guys probably have high-tech stuff, but, old-fashioned conference rooms. And we were in this conference room with these college-age guys one night, and I opened up this whiteboard, and I told the guys, I want to do something a little bit different tonight. I want a chart on this whiteboard. I really want to just write down what is it that is at those deep places in your life. And so let's try to capture in print the most important worries and fears and insecurities, those things that hurt your feelings. Not that any 20-year-old guy is going to say, it hurts my feelings, but you know what I mean, right? What are those things? And then also, let's chart what lights you up. What is it that is a deep need? What feels amazing? What do you love when you hear this or this happens or whatever? What is that? What feels great? And so we spent all evening on it. We got it all just right. They told me what to write. We erased and rewrote and erased and rewrote. We got it all just right. And then all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. I don't have time to erase this. And the girls are going to be in here tomorrow night. So let's just close the doors. So the next night, I'm in that same room with these college-age women, and I open up this whiteboard, and I start with the girls. I say, let's chart I explain the whole thing. Let's chart your fears and your needs as girls. And this one young woman raises her hand, and she says, excuse me, I object to this language. I said, oh, okay. And she said, it's not our fears and our needs as girls. We're all just people. Right? And we have the same fears and the same needs as people. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let's chart your fears and your needs as people. Okay? So we opened up this whiteboard, spent all evening on it. They told me what to say. We erased and wrote and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the night, I said, hey, girls, the guys were in here last night. Anybody want to see what the guys said? It was all anonymous. Anybody want to see what the guys said? And they were like, yeah, who wouldn't, right? So I opened up this whiteboard and I stood back and I watched their faces as these girls were and their heads are swiveling back and forth and their jaws are dropping open because there was not one word the same. Not one, except for maybe, and. There wasn't one word the same. So, what was on the board? This is the key distinction between men and women. We've tested this now on the survey. Let's start with the women. And we've done the surveys from age 15 to 75, and we found consistent all the way through everything that we included in the research, in the books. We threw out anything that changed by different ages, different racial backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, and we kept only the stuff that was consistent. And from age 15 to 75, the question, the primary question, not the only one, but the question in a woman's heart, the worry, the wonder can be sort of summarized like, am I lovable? Am I special? Am I beautiful? Am I worthy of being loved for who I am on the inside? And so they love to feel, we, women, love to feel loved and cherished and pursued and adored because it goes so deep into that question. Now, the guys, the boys, and later as men, they're kind of like, feeling loved is nice, but it didn't make it on the board. And for the boys and later as men, again, age 15 to 75, the question is totally different. The question, the worry, is, am I able? Am I adequate? Am I any good at what I do on the outside? Am I worthy of being loved for who I am on the inside? Am I any good at what I do on the outside? Completely different, and it leads to a different set of needs. So, gals, let's start with what we need to know about them as men. So, we as women, we love to feel loved, like I said, and we love it when a man says, I love you. And so we kind of think that's kind of the whole point of having the relationship. Like, if you're not going to feel loved, what's the point, right? And so we're so surprised when we find out that for men, that's not the point at all. And the men on my survey said that if they had to make a choice, and by the way, they would not want to have to make this choice, but if they had to, they said that he would actually choose to give up feeling that his wife or his girlfriend loved him if he could just feel that she appreciated him and trusted him and respected him and admired him and believed in him. And all of those things were far more important to the average guy, even than feeling that she loved him. Now, that is a big difference between men and women. And here's why it gets us as women into so much trouble eventually down the road as we enter into and then pursue more serious relationships. It gets us into trouble because we women are really good at showing love, right? How ironic is that? We're so good at saying, honey, I love you, and doing these things that we hope he'll find to be loving, and at the same time, we don't realize it. We're maybe questioning his decisions all the time. Or we're maybe criticizing him. We're like, why would we do it that way on the project? We should do it this way. Or we're maybe telling him what to do every now and then. Clearly, nobody in the room has any idea what I'm talking about. Never having done that. All the guys in the room are like, am I allowed to nod? Am I allowed to nod? I'm going to get in trouble if I nod. All right, yeah. And we don't realize that all those things are sending the message, no, you're not able, no, you're not adequate, and what you did on the outside, it wasn't good enough. And we wouldn't ever intend to send that message. We do it without realizing it, ladies. Here's basically the bottom line of why this is so crucial. Let me give you a couple examples, but first, why it matters so much. Why does that matter? Remember the whiteboard. Guys look so confident in themselves, and we kind of think, you know what, he looks a little too confident. He could be taken down a peg or two, right? And on the inside, you need to know and keep firmly in mind that is just a mask. Just a mask. And on the inside, the question is there. The heart cry of a man is, do I measure up? And he's looking for signals and clues about the answer to that question. He's looking to people around him. What is the answer to that question? Now, obviously, we know he needs to primarily be looking to God for the answer to that question, just like we as women need to be looking to God for the answer to ours. But the truth is, God has put us in each other's lives for reasons and purpose. And this is something that we are commanded to learn in Scripture. We don't have an out. We're commanded to learn this. So what does it look like, briefly, to avoid hurting and to try hard in the right areas in this? What is the negative to avoid and the positive to do? Again, very briefly. The negative to avoid are little bitty signals, day-to-day stuff that send one message, just one. It's anything that says, I think you are inadequate. That's it. Anything that sends that message. I think you are inadequate. And it's all the little day-to-day things that send that message. Like, I was asking one college student, he was talking about something that had just bugged him the other day. And one of his study partners, they had a study group of about 3 guys, 3 girls. And one of the girls had said something like, why didn't you finish the presentation yet? And she was asking for information. And he was like, she didn't need to act all suspicious and disappointed. And I'm quite sure she didn't intend to. But that, why did you, by the way, just so you know, girls, one guy said, anytime a woman starts a sentence with, why did you? Why did you do that, or why didn't you do that? He said, in the man's mind, just add on the end of the sentence a comma, you dodo. Why did you do that, you dodo? And he's like, of course, I'm like, that's not what we're saying. And he's like, but that's what we're hearing. Because, remember the whiteboard, because of that question, that vulnerability, there's so much self-doubt under the surface that we don't even know is there. It's like a raw nerve. You can hit it without intending to. What do you do instead? Because of course, every woman in the room is like, if I need to ask why, I need to ask why, right? What do you do instead? It makes all the difference. When I asked this one gentleman, when he said that, I said, what could a woman have done instead? And he said, look, how much difference would it make if you said, I know you would have had a reason, I know you had a reason for that, or I know that you're already working on it, help me understand what your reason is, or help me understand where you are. It's the same question, but it's asked in a way that assumes you're not an idiot. It makes a huge difference to learn this stuff, to avoid hurting. How about the positive thing? Girls, one key thing for you to know. Again, we could go into so much more. One key phrase that will change your life, because it will change his life. I've been looking for years to find what is it you can say to a guy that has the same emotional impact on him that I love you does on you. Because I love you says all these things to a woman. It says you're mine. It says I would choose you all over again. It says all these things. What is it that you can say to a guy? Because I learned really quickly with my husband, in our relationship, I learned he most needed to feel appreciated, that I respected him, and so I started following him around the house, like, honey, I respect you so much. And after a while, my poor husband was like, time out, I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I understand it, but you know what, that just doesn't have the same ring to it. So what is it that does? We finally found it in the last one of our studies. We finally found, girls, what you can say to a guy, whether it's a friend, a romantic relationship, eventually your marriage, your colleagues, your brother, your father. There's a phrase you can say to a man that hits him in the same emotional way that I love you does to you. I want to ask the women in the room, can you guess? It's a small phrase. Take a guess, shout it out. I'm proud of you, that's good. Keep going. Everybody's like, can I shout loud enough? All right, I'm going to tell you what it is. I know, somebody said, good job, all those things are good. Here's what the phrase is. It's, ready? All the guys are like, listen. Here's what the phrase is, ladies. Thank you. That's it. And every girl in the room is like, you've got to be kidding me. No. Thank you for the little things, the day-to-day little things that you do on the outside. If you don't believe me and just try it. Just try it. And I think the response you get is going to be the best possible incentive to continue. Okay, and let me close the guys section. We got to move on to the girls. Let me close the guys section with this one example. I was talking to a young woman who didn't believe what I was saying. I said, don't believe me, just try it. She was a college student, went off to her waitressing job that night. And she had her eye on one of the other waiters. His name was Kyle. She thought it was pretty cute. And there had been a problem with the relationship between Kyle and the manager of the restaurant. They had been at odds, they had been butting heads, it had made it miserable for everybody there. And so she watched across the room that night as the manager started trying to get into it again with Kyle, and he wouldn't do it. And he said, it's making it miserable for everybody. We can't do this here. Take it offline. Let's talk about it later. So she walked up to him and she says, Kyle, I saw what you did. He was trying to provoke you, and you wouldn't let him because you know it's been miserable. Thank you. You were protecting us. Thank you. You're such a man of honor. And she walks away. She said, Shaunti, he followed me around all night. Because here was a woman who saw what he did and said it was good. And it touched him in that place that really goes to the core of what every man's question is. Okay, switching over to the girls' side. Guys. Yeah, got to go to the other side. Guys, you need to know something about all these confident, competent women that are all around you. You think that these women are so confident in themselves, and instead you miss a truth that goes so deep into the heart of every woman, which is that question, am I lovable? Am I special? And you have bought a lie that this woman, this girl, is who she sort of looks like she is on the outside, and instead recognizing that those vulnerabilities on the inside could be so touched by certain words and actions that even what you think the most average guy who could never compete for the heart of this beautiful woman, what this average guy could do. And you need to know something. When we surveyed singles, and we said, what is it that's the most appealing, attractive characteristics in a guy? And we gave girls a list of things to choose from. He's attractive, he's got a great face, he's got a buff body, he's athletic, he's rich, he's cocky, he's thoughtful, he's got a sense of humor, he's all these things. We asked them to rank it. The guys think that she's gonna choose buff body, athletic, and rich. Maybe with a dose of cocky thrown in. That's what guys think. Guys, you need to know those were the bottom four. You need to know, guys. See, now every guy is having real trouble believing me. Let me prove it to you. You need to know, guys, that for the girls, do you know what the top three were? By far, statistically, it wasn't even close. By far. Self-confident without being cocky. Sense of humor. And thoughtful. Now, guys, I can tell you what every man in this room is thinking right now. Every guy is privately thinking, or maybe you just said it out loud to your buddy. Yeah, right. She says, all the girls always say that they want the nice guy, but they always go for the bad boy. Right? There's some bad boy over there who's like, yeah. So here's what you need to know, guys. What we found on the survey of these young women, you need to understand something about why the heart of a woman would be drawn to the bad boy. The guy who is the bad boy who comes up to her at her locker or in the cafeteria and leans over and says, Hey, beautiful. You want to go get coffee? That guy is doing something incredibly, incredibly powerful, but it's something she would rather have from the thoughtful guy. That guy is telling her one message: you are lovable. You are special. You are beautiful. All those doubts, throw them away, because I am coming up to you in confidence, in a self-confident pose, and showing you that you are worth being loved. Now, guys, of course we know that we should get that straight from heaven. Of course we know that. But whether it's the result of the fall or whether it's the result of how we're designed, there is something so powerfully touched in the heart of a woman by that kind of self-confident approach. But on the survey, statistically, the girls said they were far more likely to respond if that same self-confident approach was coming from a nice, thoughtful guy who actually cared. Guys, there is one thing that you can learn, one habit that you can learn now that will set you up for the rest of your life. Not just in your romantic relationships and dating relationships now, but eventually, if God brings you to marriage, into your marriage. Learn this habit. It's the habit of pursuit. It's the habit of self-confidence. It's the habit of doing and saying those little things, whether it's reaching out and taking her hand when you're walking across the lawn. It's the habit of sending her a text message saying, hey, do you want to, I'd like to go get coffee at some point. Something that's actually an approach, as opposed to letting her come to you. Yeah, thank you. All the guys, you have learned, we got to close this out. Guys, you have learned, unfortunately, that if you sit back, she'll come to you. You've learned that. Girls, stop it. Let them come to you. All right. And then guys, you have to step up. And I know a lot of you do. And I know a lot of you do. All right, we gotta close this out. Can you guys see, even in just these few minutes together, can you see that there are so many things that there's a veil, we've just been missing them? Can you also see something really important that God has put in the hands of each of us? So much power to either build up the other person or to tear them down. We don't necessarily realize that's there, but God has put so much power in our hands. You know, we're in our family, we follow all the superhero movies, the Marvel, the DC superhero stuff. And I want to close with this comment, and I want you guys to remember this. What did Uncle Ben tell Peter Parker, Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. Okay, let's use that responsibility well. Let's pray for a minute, just to close it out. Lord, there's so much here. Help us, Lord, to see it and learn it. Open our eyes to these things so that as we establish relationships and eventually marriages, Lord, that they are a great witness to a watching world. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.